4 clone commandos would become legends before they even knew what war meant. Their story starts in the sterile halls of Kamino, where being special meant surviving what others could not. On the water world of Kamino, inside the gleaming towers of Tipoca City, 4 identical boys receive their designation numbers: RC-1138, RC-1140, RC-1207, and RC-1262 get sorted into the Elite Clone Commando program. This makes them different from regular clone troopers. While millions of their brothers learn basic combat skills, these 4 get selected for something harder. The flash training comes first. Information gets downloaded directly into their minds at incredible speed. Combat techniques, weapon systems, tactical knowledge, and survival skills all get crammed into their developing brains. But the Kaminoans know that artificial knowledge only goes so far. Real warriors need real experience. Enter Walon Vao, a Mandalorian warrior chosen personally by Jango Fett himself. Vao belongs to the Kuival Dar, a group of hand-picked trainers tasked with turning clone boys into elite soldiers. His methods push the commandos past their breaking point, then keep pushing. Where other instructors might show mercy, Vao shows results. The training becomes a daily battle for survival. Vao forces the 4 clones to work together or face consequences that leave permanent marks. His lessons go beyond shooting and explosives. He teaches them that weakness spreads like a disease and that trusting your brothers means the difference between coming home and coming home in a body bag. During this brutal education, the clones decide that numbers make poor names for brothers. RC-1138 shows natural leadership skills and tactical thinking that impresses even Vao. His squad mates start calling him Boss, a nickname that sticks when he becomes their sergeant and squad leader. His ability to make split-second decisions under fire sets him apart from the others. RC-1140 earns the name Fixer through his technical abilities. While his brothers focus on combat skills, Fixer masters the electronic systems that make their missions possible. He becomes their second-in-command and the one they rely on when doors won't open or security systems need bypassing. His steady personality balances Boss's more aggressive tendencies. The name Scorch comes from an accident that could have ended badly. RC-1262 makes a mistake while handling ordnance that singes off both his eyebrows and Vao's. Instead of punishment, this earns him his nickname and confirms his role as the squad's explosives expert. Scorch learns to make things go boom with precision, but his personality stays lighter than his brothers despite the dangerous work. RC-1207 becomes Sev simply by shortening the 7 in his designation number. The name fits his role as the team sniper, someone who stays separate and watches from a distance. Sev develops the patience and precision needed to take impossible shots while his brothers handle close-quarters combat. His darker sense of humor masks a deadly, serious approach to killing enemies. Vao's training creates something the Kaminoans never expected. These 4 clones don't just follow orders efficiently. They think for themselves, adapt to changing situations, and most importantly, they refuse to leave each other behind. The bond between them goes deeper than military discipline or genetic programming. Their instructor watches them develop from identical copies into individuals with distinct personalities and skills. Boss leads with confidence that inspires trust. Fixer solves problems that would stop other units cold. Scorch finds ways to blow things up that shouldn't be possible to destroy. Sev eliminates targets from distances that seem impossible. But Vao's greatest lesson isn't about weapons or tactics. He teaches them that survival depends on the men standing next to you. A commando unit only works when each member knows the others will risk everything to bring him home. This philosophy becomes the foundation of everything Delta Squad accomplishes. The training period ends with 4 young men who share DNA but have forged something stronger than blood. They've become brothers through shared pain, mutual trust, and absolute loyalty. Boss, Fixer, Scorch, and Sev represent the best of what the Clone Commando program can produce. By the time their instructor finally declares them ready for deployment, Delta Squad had transformed into an elite unit capable of completing missions that would destroy larger forces. They've learned to fight as one mind controlling 4 bodies, each member knowing instinctively what the others need. Vao's brutal methods created exactly what the Republic needs for the coming war. Delta Squad emerges from training as an aggressive but highly efficient unit. Years later, they'll credit their Mandalorian instructor for making them into survivors. But survival is just the beginning of their story. The war that's about to begin will test everything Vao taught them. Delta Squad will face enemies, obstacles, and choices that no amount of training can fully prepare them for. But they'll face these challenges together as brothers who know that failure means letting down the 3 people who matter most. Their legend starts here, in the training halls of Kamino, where 4 clones learned that being special means being willing to do what others cannot. The galaxy has no idea what's coming, but Delta Squad is ready to show them. Chapter 2. Battle of Geonosis. War comes faster than anyone expects. One day, Delta Squad is finishing training on Kamino. The next, they're flying toward a desert planet where thousands will die in the first battle of a galactic conflict. The year is 22, before Battle of Yavin, when everything changes. The Clone Wars begin on Geonosis, a rocky world filled with underground factories and bug-like aliens who've chosen the wrong side. Delta Squad gets their orders without warning. No farewell ceremony with Sergeant Vao, no final inspections, no time to process what's happening. 4 gunships launch from Kamino, carrying the commandos toward their first real mission. Each member of Delta Squad rides in a separate gunship during the approach. This isn't an accident. If one transport gets shot down, the others can still complete the mission. Boss watches the red surface of Geonosis grow larger through his gunship's viewport, knowing his brothers are doing the same thing in their own ships scattered across the sky. A clone advisor briefs them over the comm system during the flight. Their target isn't some random factory or defensive position. Delta Squad gets assigned to kill Sun Fac, the right-hand bug to Archduke Poggle the Lesser. Sun Fac coordinates Geonosian military operations, making him a high-value target worth risking 4 elite commandos to eliminate. The landing doesn't go according to plan. It never does. Boss hits the ground running as blaster fire erupts around his position. Separatist forces have turned the landing zones into kill boxes, but the commandos adapt quickly. Boss fights his way through enemy positions, using everything Vao taught him about urban warfare and close-quarters combat. An armored bunker blocks his path to the rendezvous point. Regular clone troopers might call for support or try to go around. Boss pulls out a thermal detonator, calculates the blast radius, and tosses it through the bunker's firing port. The explosion eliminates the obstacle and clears his route to his brothers. The reunion happens under fire, but Delta Squad operates like they've been fighting together for years instead of minutes. Fixer handles tactical coordination, while Scorch prepares explosives for their next objective. Sev finds elevated positions for overwatch. Boss leads them through the chaos toward Sun Fac's command center. Finding the Geonosian lieutenant takes longer than expected. The aliens have built their facilities like underground mazes designed to confuse invaders. But Delta Squad methodically clears each chamber, using their training to move as one unit through the twisting corridors. Sun Fac realizes his position is compromised and tries to escape. The Geonosian makes it to his personal starfighter and begins powering up for takeoff. Most soldiers would watch helplessly as their target flies away, but Delta Squad brought their sniper for exactly this situation. Sev drops to one knee, steadies his weapon, and tracks the moving fighter through his scope. The shot has to be perfect. Miss and Sun Fac escapes to coordinate more attacks against Republic forces. Sev doesn't miss. His blaster bolt punches through the cockpit, killing Sun Fac instantly and sending the fighter spinning into the ground. During the firefight, something interesting happens that none of them understand at the time. A sleek starfighter launches from a nearby hangar and disappears into space. The ship looks different from standard Separatist designs, but Delta Squad has more pressing concerns than unidentified spacecraft. They mark it in their reports and move on. That mysterious ship belongs to General Grievous, a name that will haunt the Republic for years to come. But right now, he's just another enemy who got away while Delta Squad completed their primary mission. Their celebration gets cut short by new orders. Another commando unit, Theta Squad, was supposed to destroy a droid factory in the Geonosian underground. Theta succeeded in blowing open the entrance but paid a terrible price. 3 of the 4 commandos died in the assault, leaving only a trooper named Darman alive. Delta Squad gets redirected to finish what Theta started. They push deeper into the Geonosian catacombs, fighting through egg chambers where alien larvae develop in the darkness. The droid factory sits at the heart of this underground complex, churning out battle droids for the Separatist war machine. Destroying the factory requires precision. Scorch studies the facility's structural supports and identifies the weak points that will bring the whole thing down. His explosives turn the underground factory into rubble, eliminating a major source of enemy reinforcements. But the mission isn't over yet. Intelligence identifies a Lucra Hulk Corps ship as their next target. These massive vessels serve as command centers for droid armies, making them priority objectives for Republic forces. Delta Squad gets orders to infiltrate the ship and destroy it from within. The approach goes wrong immediately. Their gunship drops them into a canyon that should have been secure, but Geonosian warriors ambush them the moment they hit the ground. Flying aliens armed with sonic weapons attack from all directions, while Delta Squad scrambles for cover. A crashed Republic gunship provides salvation. The wreck still has a working turret that Fixer quickly brings online. The heavy weapon gives them the firepower needed to drive off the aerial attackers and secure their position. Moving toward the core ship, Delta Squad encounters a massive anti-aircraft cannon threatening Republic air support. The weapon has to be silenced before friendly gunships can provide close air support for other ground units. The commandos assault the gun position, eliminate its crew, and destroy the weapon with well-placed explosives. The final obstacle proves to be their toughest yet. A spider droid guards the approach to the core ship, its multiple legs allowing it to climb walls and attack from unexpected angles. The mechanical creature fires rapid bursts from its cannon while trying to crush the commandos with its massive limbs. Delta Squad adapts their tactics on the fly. They use the terrain to limit the droid's mobility while concentrating their fire on vulnerable joints and sensors. The battle lasts longer than anyone wants. But eventually the spider droid collapses in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. The core ship's entrance is protected by ray shields that deflect small arms fire. Delta Squad calls in gunship support to breach the barrier with heavy weapons. Republic pilots streak overhead, launching missiles that punch through the defensive screen and clear the way inside. Their success on Geonosis establishes Delta Squad's reputation within the clone commando community. They completed multiple objectives under fire, adapted to changing situations, and proved that VOW's training methods produce results. The Republic secures a significant foothold on the planet thanks to their efforts. The first battle of the Clone Wars ends with thousands dead on both sides, but also with hope that elite units like Delta Squad can make the difference. Their legend begins here, in the dust and chaos of Geonosis, where four brothers learn that war is nothing like training. Chapter 3: Mission to the Prosecutor. Sometimes the scariest enemies are the ones waiting in the dark. Delta Squad is about to learn that ghost ships tell stories no one wants to hear. 1 year into the Clone Wars, roughly 367 days after their baptism of fire on Geonosis, Delta Squad receives an assignment that makes even experienced commandos nervous. The Republic assault ship Prosecutor has reappeared after vanishing for weeks without explanation. The massive Acclamator-class vessel drifts dead in space, silent to all communication attempts and showing no signs of life aboard. This isn't just a random ship for Delta Squad. They'd spent considerable time aboard the Prosecutor earlier in the war, walking its corridors and knowing its layout like their own barracks. The familiarity makes the current situation even more unsettling. A ship they once called home now floats like a tomb in the void of space. Their stellar performance on Geonosis caught the attention of Republic commanders who need their best team for this investigation. Whatever happened to the Prosecutor and its crew, the brass wants answers. Delta Squad gets selected because they're the kind of soldiers who can handle whatever they find in those dark hallways. The troop ship Coruscant delivers them to the rendezvous point, but getting aboard the ghost ship requires a dangerous approach. With the Prosecutor's docking bays potentially compromised, Delta Squad performs a zero-gravity insertion that would terrify normal troopers. All four commandos leap from their transport and drift through the vacuum of space toward different access points on the silent vessel. Boss, Fixer, Sev, and Scorch each enter through separate airlocks, a tactical decision that spreads their insertion but also separates the team. If the ship contains hostile forces, splitting up gives them multiple angles of attack. If something goes wrong, at least some of the squad might survive to report back. The moment they step inside, everything goes wrong. Communications get jammed by some kind of interference, cutting off contact between the squad members. The corridors that once bustled with Republic personnel now stretch empty and dark. Emergency lighting flickers sporadically, casting weird shadows that make every corner potentially dangerous. Each commando finds himself alone in familiar surroundings that now feel completely alien. They know where they are, but they can't shake the feeling that something is watching them from the darkness. The ship's silence presses down on them like a physical weight, broken only by the distant sound of their own breathing. Delta Squad trained for situations like this. But training never captures the psychological pressure of walking through a ship where hundreds of your allies have simply vanished. Every door might hide answers or enemies. Every shadow could conceal threats or clues about what happened to the missing crew. The truth reveals itself gradually as the commandos explore different sections. The Prosecutor didn't suffer mechanical failure or enemy attack from outside. Something got aboard and overwhelmed the crew from within. Trandoshan mercenaries and slavers have turned the Republic vessel into their personal hunting ground. Sev discovers this the hard way when he approaches one of the ship's data cores. The sniper walks into an ambush that sees him overwhelmed and captured by reptilian raiders who've been using the ship as a base of operations. His capture leaves the other 3 members of Delta Squad operating blind in hostile territory. Boss faces his own crisis when Trandoshan forces nearly corner him in the main corridors. Quick thinking and knowledge of the ship's layout save his life. He disappears into maintenance shafts and service tunnels that the enemy hasn't fully mapped, using the Prosecutor's own structure as camouflage. Gradually, the separated commandos begin finding each other again. Boss and Fixer team up to search the detention area where prisoners would be held. They find Scorch unconscious in one of the cells, apparently drugged or beaten into submission by his captors. Getting their explosives expert back gives them more firepower for the fights ahead. The rescue mission becomes a priority when they eliminate a jamming device on the bridge. Restoring communications allows them to contact a clone advisor who's been trying to reach them since the insertion began. But it also lets them coordinate their search for Sev and plan their counterattack against the Trandoshan borders. Evidence in the hangar bay explains how the enemy got aboard. A Trandoshan dropship sits docked to the Prosecutor, probably clamped on while the Republic crew was distracted by other threats. The slavers used stealth and surprise to overwhelm a much larger force, turning hunters into the hunted. Delta Squad fights through waves of Trandoshan raiders as they work to reclaim their former home. The reptilian mercenaries are tough opponents who fight with desperate fury when cornered. But the commandos know every corridor and maintenance shaft, giving them tactical advantages that even superior numbers can't overcome. Just when it looks like they might succeed, the situation gets exponentially worse. A separatist Lucra Hulk core ship drops out of hyperspace and immediately begins attacking the Prosecutor. The massive droid control vessel deploys boarding parties of battle droids that swarm through the ship's compromised hull. Now, Delta Squad faces enemies on 2 fronts. Trandoshan slavers control key sections of the ship while battle droids pour through breached airlocks in overwhelming numbers. The commandos have to split their attention between sealing hangar bays and fighting off mechanical invaders in cramped corridors. The final hangar becomes their desperate last stand. Battle droids overrun the position in numbers that would crush a regular infantry unit. But Delta Squad isn't regular infantry. They use every trick Vao taught them about defensive positions and overlapping fields of fire to hold ground that should be impossible to defend. Help arrives when they need it most. The Republic assault ship Arrestor jumps in from hyperspace and immediately engages the Separatist vessel. The ship-to-ship battle provides covering fire that allows Delta Squad to reactivate the Prosecutor's point defense turbo lasers, adding their firepower to the fight. The tide turns when the Arrestor launches missiles that completely destroy the Separatist droid control ship. Without their command vessel, every battle droid aboard the Prosecutor simply shuts down. The mechanical invasion ends instantly, leaving only scattered Trandoshan survivors for Delta Squad to mop up. The aftermath brings recognition from the highest levels of Republic command. Jedi General Mace Windu personally commends Delta Squad for their valor aboard the Prosecutor. Their actions saved not just the ship, but also the valuable intelligence contained in its databanks. That intelligence proves more important than anyone realizes at the time. Information Delta Squad recovered helps the Republic understand Trandoshan slaving operations throughout the galaxy, particularly in the Kashyyyk system, where Wookiees have been fighting reptilian raiders for generations. The data becomes crucial for future military planning. It reveals enemy supply routes, operational methods, and target priorities that help Republic forces protect vulnerable populations. Without knowing it, Delta Squad's mission aboard the Prosecutor sets the stage for their next major assignment. The Ghost Ship investigation establishes a pattern that will define Delta Squad's war. They get sent to the most dangerous situations where regular troops would fail. They adapt to impossible odds and complete missions that seem doomed from the start. Most importantly, they never leave each other behind, no matter how dark things get. Chapter 4: Rescue of Omega Squad. The worst sound in the galaxy is a brother calling for help when you might be too far away to answer. Delta Squad is about to prove that distance means nothing when family is dying. Fresh off their success aboard the Prosecutor, Delta Squad receives an emergency transmission that changes their mission priorities instantly. The signal comes through on Red Zero frequency, the commando distress code that means immediate extraction required. When that signal goes out, every available unit drops what they're doing and races to help. The transmission comes from Omega Squad, another four-man commando team operating somewhere near the intersection of the Corellian and Perlemian hyperlanes. Like Delta Squad, Omega consists of 4 clone brothers trained to handle impossible missions. Unlike Delta Squad, Omega is currently stranded aboard a crippled freighter with no power, no life support, and time running out fast. The situation gets more complicated when they learn about the cargo. Omega Squad has 3 high-value prisoners in custody, probably separatist operatives or war criminals too important to lose. They can't just abandon their captives, but they also can't survive much longer without environmental systems keeping them alive. Delta Squad faces a choice that defines who they are as soldiers and brothers. Other Republic units are too far away to reach Omega in time. The nearest rescue ships would take hours to arrive, and Omega doesn't have hours left. Someone has to act immediately, or 4 good commandos die along with their mission. Boss makes the call without hesitation. Delta Squad commandeers a small Neimoidian vessel that isn't designed for combat or heavy lifting, but can get them to Omega's coordinates faster than anything else available. The ship is unarmed and vulnerable, but speed matters more than firepower when brothers are suffocating. They push the stolen transport beyond safe limits, racing through hyperspace toward coordinates that might already mark 4 graves. Every minute counts when life support has failed and oxygen levels are dropping. The journey becomes a race against time that Delta Squad refuses to lose. Arriving at the scene, they find Omega Squad's freighter drifting dead in space like the Prosecutor was. But this time, the threat is simpler and more immediate. No enemy borders, no hostile takeover. Just mechanical failure and the slow approach of death by suffocation for 4 men who've served the Republic faithfully. Scorch takes point on the rescue operation, using his expertise with explosives and technical systems to solve the docking problem. The freighter's normal airlocks are probably dead along with everything else, so he has to create a new way inside. His solution involves cutting through the forward viewport and creating an improvised docking tunnel. The work requires precision under pressure. Cut too shallow and the viewport holds. Cut too deep and you decompress the compartment, killing everyone inside instantly. Scorch manages to slice through the transparent metal just deep enough to breach the barrier without causing explosive decompression. Attaching a docking umbilical between the 2 ships creates a pressurized tube that allows Delta Squad to cross over safely. The improvised connection isn't pretty, but it works. Boss, Fixer, Sev, and Scorch move through the tunnel to find their fellow commandos barely conscious from oxygen deprivation. Omega Squad consists of 4 brothers just like Delta, but with different personalities and specialties. Their sergeant goes by Niner, a steady leader who keeps his squad together through discipline and care. Aten serves as their heavy weapons specialist, a man with anger issues but absolute loyalty to his brothers. Darman handles demolitions like Scorch does for Delta, while Fee provides tech support similar to Fixer's role. The rescue proceeds smoothly until enemy forces arrive to complicate everything. A separatist craft drops out of hyperspace with obvious hostile intent, probably sent to eliminate both commando squads before they can escape. The timing suggests enemy intelligence knew about Omega's predicament and planned to finish them off. Delta Squad finds themselves in a helpless position. Their commandeered transport has no weapons and limited maneuverability. Omega Squad is too weak to fight effectively after hours of oxygen starvation. 8 elite commandos face the very real possibility of dying together in the middle of nowhere. Salvation arrives in the form of the Republic assault ship Fearless, which drops out of hyperspace at exactly the right moment. The warship immediately identifies the separatist threat and engages with overwhelming firepower. 2 missiles eliminate the enemy vessel before it can attack the defenseless transports. The timing seems too perfect to be coincidental. Someone probably tracked Delta Squad's movements and dispatched the Fearless to provide support. The rescue operation succeeds because Republic Command takes care of their elite units, knowing that commandos like Delta and Omega are too valuable to lose to mechanical failures. With the immediate threat eliminated, Delta Squad evacuates Omega Squad and their prisoners through the docking tube. The transfer happens quickly and efficiently, with both squads working together despite having never operated as a combined unit before. Good training shows when professionals adapt to unexpected situations. The journey back to friendly space happens aboard the cramped Neimoidian transport, and confined spaces sometimes bring out the worst in people. Tensions flare between members of the 2 squads when old grievances surface under stress. Sev, Delta's sniper, decides to provoke Aten about their shared history under Walon Vao. Both commandos trained under the same Mandalorian instructor, but they remember the experience differently. Sev sees Vao's harsh methods as necessary preparation for war. Aten carries anger about treatment that crossed lines between training and abuse. The argument escalates quickly in the small ship. Niner, Omega's sergeant, steps in before the confrontation turns physical. Good leaders recognize when their people are about to make mistakes they'll regret later. He diffuses the situation with the kind of calm authority that keeps squads functioning under pressure. The incident reveals important differences between Delta and Omega squads. Delta operates with tight internal discipline and emotional distance from outsiders. Omega shows more flexibility and openness to forming relationships beyond their immediate team. Both approaches work, but they don't always mesh smoothly. Docking with the Fearless brings relief and separation. Omega Squad gets greeted by their Jedi General Etain Mukan, who obviously cares deeply about her commandos and worried about their safety during the crisis. The reunion shows the kind of bond that can form between Jedi and clone soldiers when mutual respect develops. Delta Squad chooses a different approach. They move to a quiet corner of the hangar and talk privately among themselves, maintaining their characteristic independence from outside relationships. The 4 brothers remain a self-contained unit that doesn't need external validation or emotional support. This difference highlights competing philosophies within the clone commando community. Some squads integrate closely with their Jedi generals and support personnel. Others, like Delta, maintain professional relationships but keep their emotional connections limited to their immediate brothers. As the Fearless sets course for Coruscant, both squads can reflect on a successful mission that saved lives and preserved valuable intelligence. The rescue operation demonstrates that clone commandos will risk everything for their fellow soldiers, even when those soldiers belong to different units. The mission also establishes important connections that will matter later in the war. Delta Squad now knows Omega personally, creating bonds that extend beyond simple military cooperation. These relationships become crucial when the war takes darker turns and trust becomes more valuable than firepower. Chapter 5: Coruscant Operation. The deadliest enemies sometimes hide in plain sight on the safest worlds. Delta Squad is about to learn that even the Republic capital isn't immune to the war tearing apart the galaxy. Returning to Coruscant should feel like coming home after dangerous missions in deep space. Instead, Delta Squad and Omega Squad get pulled into something that makes fighting droids and oppressors seem simple by comparison. The war has followed them to the heart of Republic civilization, and now they have to hunt enemies who look just like everyone else. Their old instructor, Kal Skirata, waits for them at Arca Company barracks. The former Mandalorian trainer has traded his armor for Republic military advisor credentials, but he still carries himself like a warrior who's seen too much combat. His presence means this assignment goes beyond normal military operations. Scorch can't resist making a joke about Skirata getting older since their training days on Kamino. The comment earns all of Delta Squad 50 push-ups as a welcome-back gift from their former instructor. Some things never change, and Skirata's sense of discipline is one of them. Once the punishment exercise ends, Skirata briefs both commando squads on their real mission. A separatist-backed cell has been operating on Coruscant, smuggling explosives and planting bombs throughout the capital. These attacks target civilian areas and government facilities designed to spread fear and undermine Republic morale. The enemy has turned asymmetric warfare into an art form. Instead of facing Republic forces in open battle, they strike soft targets and disappear back into the civilian population. Traditional military tactics don't work against opponents who look like ordinary citizens until they start killing people. Delta Squad and Omega Squad will work together with Jedi Generals Etain Termukan and Bardan Jusik to form an elite strike team. Their job involves infiltrating enemy networks, gathering intelligence, and eliminating threats before more bombs go off. Success requires skills that go far beyond shooting straight and following orders. The operation begins with establishing a safe house on the top floor of Kibu's hut, a seedy cantina and hotel in one of Coruscant's less respectable districts. The location provides perfect cover for commandos who need to blend into the underworld while conducting surveillance operations. Living in close quarters reveals personality differences between the two squads that training never exposed. Delta operates with military precision and formal protocols that keep everyone focused on the mission. Omega takes a more relaxed approach that drives Fixer crazy when they leave equipment scattered around or skip routine maintenance schedules. Despite the friction, both squads gradually develop mutual respect as they work side by side on rotating shifts. Delta appreciates Omega's flexibility and creative problem-solving. Omega respects Delta's discipline and attention to detail. Different approaches can complement each other when professionals focus on getting results. The surveillance work pays off when they uncover something worse than just enemy operatives. Someone inside the Republic Logistics Division has been feeding information to the bombing cell, providing targeting data and security details that make attacks possible. The mole represents a betrayal that goes to the heart of Republic vulnerability. Rooting out the traitor becomes a priority that requires careful investigation without alerting other potential collaborators. The commandos use their intelligence-gathering skills to track communication patterns and identify suspicious activities within supposedly secure facilities. Finding the leak helps tighten security and prevents future attacks. Skirata's underworld contacts provide the key to breaking the entire network. Instead of trying to hunt down individual cell members, the task force decides to lure the leadership into a trap that will decapitate the organization in one strike. The plan requires acting like the kind of people the bombers want to do business with. They spread word through black market channels that high-grade thermal plastoid compound is available for purchase. The 500-grade explosives represent exactly what the cell needs for their next major attack. Greed and operational necessity will bring the enemy to them instead of forcing dangerous searches through Coruscant's vast population. The meeting gets set up with Skirata and his team posing as arms dealers willing to sell military-grade explosives to the highest bidder. The performance has to be convincing enough to fool experienced criminals who've survived Republic security sweeps. One wrong word or suspicious gesture could expose the entire operation. Periv, the cell's leader, takes the bait along with several key associates. These men have been planning attacks that would kill hundreds of innocent people, but they walk into the meeting thinking they're about to acquire the tools for even bigger strikes against Republic targets. Delta Squad and Omega Squad position themselves around the meeting site before the targets arrive. Sev and Scorch team up with Omega's Darman and Phi to create overlapping fields of observation and fire. Every escape route gets covered. Every angle gets watched. Every possible contingency gets planned for. The trap springs with perfect timing and coordination. When Skirata gives the signal, 8 elite commandos move simultaneously to eliminate the entire cell leadership. The strike happens so fast and precisely that nearby civilians never realize a battle just took place in their neighborhood. The coordinated assault showcases what clone commandos can accomplish when they work together effectively. Years of training under Mandalorian instructors created soldiers who think tactically and act decisively. The enemy never has a chance to fight back or escape. Dismantling the bombing network saves countless lives and demonstrates that the Republic can protect its own capital from internal threats. The success comes with minimal collateral damage because elite troops know how to use exactly the right amount of force for each situation. The mission ends with both squads having proven they can work together despite their different approaches to military life. Delta Squad's rigid discipline meshes surprisingly well with Omega Squad's flexible tactics when both teams focus on protecting innocent people from those who would hurt them. Scorch finds himself working effectively alongside Phi during the surveillance phases. Sev discovers that Darman shares his appreciation for precise shooting and careful target selection. Even Fixer admits that Omega's informal methods sometimes produce results that regulations can't match. The joint operation creates bonds that extend beyond simple professional cooperation. 8 commandos who started as strangers become something approaching friends with shared experiences that matter more than unit designations or training differences. When the squads part ways after completing the mission, they do so with genuine respect for each other's abilities and character. The war will test these relationships in ways none of them can predict. But for now, they know they can count on brothers beyond their immediate squads when situations demand it. Coruscant returns to its normal rhythm of government business and civilian life, unaware that a major threat was eliminated by soldiers most citizens never see. Delta Squad and Omega Squad go back to their regular assignments, knowing they helped keep the capital safe from those who would turn it into a battlefield. Chapter 6: Recon on Devaron. Some missions aren't about winning battles or saving lives. Sometimes you just have to pick up the pieces after something terrible happens and make sure the dead get home. Around year 20 battle before Yavin, Delta Squad gets orders that nobody wants. A Jedi Temple outpost on Devaron has gone silent after reports of an attack. The Temple of Edith was supposed to be a safe place where Jedi could study and meditate, far from the front lines of the Clone Wars. Now something has gone very wrong there. The briefing is short and grim. Republic forces at the temple stopped responding to communications after what witnesses described as a devastating assault. Early reports suggest the entire garrison was wiped out by a single attacker. Delta Squad's job is simple but heartbreaking. Go to Devaron, search for survivors, and bring home the dead. This isn't the kind of mission that gets soldiers excited or makes careers. There's no tactical objective to secure, no enemy stronghold to capture, no strategic advantage to gain. Just the sad duty of cleaning up after a massacre and giving fallen heroes the respect they deserve. The flight to Devaron gives Delta Squad time to think about what they might find. Fighting live enemies is one thing. Walking through the aftermath of slaughter is something else entirely. Even experienced commandos feel the weight of knowing they're probably flying toward a graveyard. Devaron itself looks peaceful from orbit. The planet's forests and mountains show no signs of the violence that supposedly took place on the surface. But looks can be deceiving, especially when Sith Lords start killing Jedi in places that were supposed to be sanctuaries. The Temple of Edith sits in ruins when Delta Squad arrives. Stone walls that once stood proud and strong now lie shattered and broken. Burn marks scar the surviving structures. The smell of smoke still hangs in the air, mixing with something worse that experienced soldiers learn to recognize. Boss leads his squad through the wreckage methodically, checking every room and corridor for signs of life. They find plenty of evidence that people lived and worked here recently. Personal belongings scattered around quarters, half-finished meals left on tables, books and documents abandoned mid-study. But they don't find any living people. The attack was thorough and complete. Whatever killed everyone here didn't leave witnesses or survivors. The silence in the temple feels heavy and wrong, like the building itself is mourning the people who once filled it with life. In the main chamber, Delta Squad discovers the bodies of Jedi Master Halsey and his Padawan Nox. The two Force users died fighting, their lightsabers nearby and scorch marks on the walls showing they tried to defend themselves and others. But even Jedi Knights weren't enough against whatever came for them. The scene tells a story that chills even hardened commandos. Master Halsey was an experienced Jedi with years of combat training. Nox was young but skilled enough to be chosen as a Padawan. Together, they should have been able to handle most threats the Separatists could send against a remote temple. Yet something killed them both, along with every clone trooper and temple worker on the entire base. The efficiency of the slaughter suggests a single attacker with abilities far beyond normal Separatist forces. This wasn't a droid army or commando raid. This was something much more dangerous. Delta Squad spends hours searching every corner of the temple complex. They check hidden passages, emergency shelters, and secure bunkers where survivors might have hidden. The thoroughness comes from hope as much as duty. Finding even one living person would make the mission worthwhile. But hope fades as each search comes up empty. The attack left no survivors and no witnesses. Everyone who was at the Temple of Edith when the killer arrived is now dead. The only thing left for Delta Squad to do is gather the bodies and bring them home for proper burial. The job of collecting fallen comrades never gets easier, no matter how many times soldiers have to do it. Each body represents someone with friends, dreams, and people who cared about them. Loading coffins into a transport ship feels like carrying the weight of all those broken hearts. Master Halsey and Padawan Nox get special attention as the ranking casualties. Their bodies are placed in proper military coffins with the respect due to fallen officers. The other victims receive the same careful treatment because every life matters, regardless of rank or position. The flight back to Coruscant gives Delta Squad time to process what they've seen. The attack on Devaron represents something new in the war, a level of individual power that makes even elite commandos feel small. Whatever killed those Jedi is still out there, probably looking for more targets. Arriving at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, Delta Squad faces a duty that's somehow harder than searching through ruins. They have to report their findings to the Jedi High Council, confirming that good people died and nobody could save them. Boss leads his squad to the temple landing platform, where 4 members of the Jedi Council wait to receive the fallen. Obi-Wan Kenobi stands with Plo Koon, Adi Gallia, and Saesee Tiin, their faces already showing the grief of leaders who've lost too many friends to this war. The coffins get presented with military precision and ceremonial respect. Boss delivers his report in the clipped professional tone that soldiers use when emotions threaten to interfere with duty. No survivors found. Temple completely destroyed. Evidence suggests a single attacker with exceptional abilities. The Jedi Council members listen to every word, understanding the implications even if they don't want to believe them. Count Dooku has apparently found himself a new apprentice, someone powerful enough to destroy an entire temple garrison single-handedly. The war just got more dangerous for everyone wearing Republic colors. Obi-Wan asks careful questions about the attack patterns and evidence left behind. The details help confirm what the Council already suspected. This isn't random separatist violence or opportunistic raiding. This is the work of a Sith Lord, someone trained in the dark side of the Force and unleashed against Republic targets. The recognition brings no comfort to anyone involved. Delta Squad fulfilled their orders and brought the dead home safely. The Jedi Council got the intelligence they needed to understand the new threat. But knowing what killed Master Halsey and Padawan Nox doesn't bring them back or prevent future attacks. This mission becomes Delta Squad's only appearance in the main Clone Wars story, but it shows something important about who they are as soldiers. They handle the worst assignments without complaint. They treat fallen comrades with honor. They deliver bad news honestly, even when it hurts to hear. The Devaron mission also demonstrates that even elite units like Delta Squad sometimes can't save the day. Some battles are over before anyone realizes they've started. Walking away from the Jedi Temple, Delta Squad carries the weight of what they've seen and reported. They've delivered proof that the war is changing, becoming more personal and more deadly. Somewhere out there, a new enemy is hunting Jedi, and nobody knows where he'll strike next. Chapter 7. Mission to Mygeeto. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Delta Squad is about to learn that loyalty runs deeper than orders when the people who made you need help. About 470 days after their first battle on Geonosis, Delta Squad gets deployed to Mygeeto, a frozen world in the Outer Rim that's become another battlefield in the endless Clone Wars. The planet's ice-covered surface hides valuable resources that both sides want to control, making it worth fighting over despite the brutal weather. Their official mission sounds straightforward enough. Support Clone Commander Bakara and his galactic marines by calling in airstrikes and blowing up separatist defenses around the city of Jigat. It's the kind of work Delta Squad does better than anyone else, using their skills to soften up enemy positions before the main assault begins. The job goes exactly as planned. Delta Squad moves through the snow-covered landscape like ghosts, identifying targets and coordinating with Republic pilots to rain destruction on enemy positions. Their sabotage work weakens separatist ground defenses enough for Bakara's Marines to advance with minimal casualties. Mission accomplished. Time to head home and wait for the next assignment. Except Delta Squad decides to stick around Mygeeto for reasons that have nothing to do with official orders and everything to do with family loyalty that goes beyond military regulations. Their old training sergeant, Walon Vao, is on the planet pursuing his own agenda. The Mandalorian instructor who turned 4 clone boys into elite commandos now needs their help with something personal. He's planning to rob the Dressian Kiolsh merchant bank and reclaim money that belongs to him by right, if not by law. The story behind Vao's plan goes back decades to his life before becoming a trainer on Kamino. He came from a wealthy family on Irmenu, but got disowned and cut off from his inheritance over disputes that probably involved his violent tendencies and military career choices. The family fortune ended up in a separatist-controlled bank that's currently sitting in a war zone. Vao sees an opportunity to take back what was stolen from him, using the chaos of battle as cover for a heist that would be impossible under normal circumstances. He's got the skills and knowledge needed to break into the vault, but he could use backup from people he trusts completely. Delta Squad faces a choice that defines who they are beyond their military identities. They could follow regulations, complete their extraction, and let Vao handle his personal business alone. Or they can help the man who made them into survivors, even if it means risking their careers and possibly their lives. Boss makes the call for all of them. Delta Squad will help their old instructor, official orders be damned. Some debts matter more than rank structure or chain of command. Vao trained them, protected them, and turned them into the men they became. Now it's time to return the favor. The plan requires splitting the team to cover all the angles. Boss, Sev, and Scorch follow Vao into the underground tunnels that lead to the bank vault. Fixer stays topside with their snow speeder, ready to provide covering fire or quick extraction if things go sideways. Getting into the vault means bypassing security systems that were designed to keep out professional thieves and enemy agents. Scorch puts his technical skills to work on the locks and alarms, using everything he learned about explosives and electronics to open doors that were meant to stay closed forever. The work goes smoothly until Vao makes it clear that Delta Squad won't be participating in the actual theft. He's willing to risk his own freedom and reputation, but he won't let his former students become criminals for his sake. The commandos will stand guard while he loots the safe deposit boxes alone. Watching Vao work reveals sides of their instructor they never knew existed. The gruff Mandalorian warrior who put them through hell during training comes from aristocratic wealth and family connections that span multiple star systems. His past explains some of his attitudes and methods, but it doesn't change who he is to them. The heist proceeds without major problems until someone triggers an alarm that brings armed guards and battle droids running from all directions. Moonbank security and separatist forces converge on the vault, trapping Delta Squad and Val in tunnels that suddenly become a kill zone. Fighting their way out tests every skill Val taught them about close-quarters combat and tactical thinking under pressure. The underground passages limit their movement, while enemy forces try to pin them down with overlapping fields of fire. Only their superior training and teamwork keep them alive long enough to reach the surface. The escape route takes them through crystalline ice formations that look beautiful but hide deadly instabilities. The added weight of running soldiers and the vibrations from blaster fire prove too much for the frozen structures to handle. A whole section of ice gives way just as they're crossing it. Val plunges into a deep crevasse that opens beneath his feet, disappearing into the darkness of an under-ice tunnel system that could stretch for kilometers in any direction. The fall should kill him instantly, but somehow he survives the impact and ends up trapped in spaces where rescue seems impossible. From the bottom of the crevasse, Val shouts orders that tear at his former students' hearts. He commands Delta Squad to abandon him and get to their extraction point before enemy reinforcements arrive. The mission is more important than one man, even if that man means everything to them. Boss faces the hardest decision of his military career. Every instinct tells him to attempt a rescue regardless of the risks or the tactical situation. But Val's order is clear, and disobeying it could get everyone killed while accomplishing nothing except good intentions. The choice haunts all of them, but Sev takes it hardest. The sniper's connection to their instructor runs deeper than his brothers realize, and leaving Val behind feels like the worst kind of betrayal. Only direct orders from Boss keep him moving toward the snowspeeder. Their escape from Mygeeto happens in silence, broken only by the sound of fixers piloting and the distant rumble of ongoing battles. None of them want to talk about what just happened or acknowledge that they might have watched their mentor die in a hole in the ice. But Boss doesn't give up on Val, even if he had to leave him behind on the battlefield. As soon as Delta Squad reaches friendly space, he contacts Kal Skirata and Null Arc Captain Ordo, two people with the skills and resources needed for an immediate rescue mission. Skirata and Ordo race back to Mygeeto ahead of any official recovery efforts. They find Val hypothermic and barely conscious in the under-ice tunnels, but still alive and still stubborn enough to complain about the rescue taking so long to arrive. The successful extraction saves Val's life and validates Delta Squad's faith in the people who care about their own. Delta Squad's unauthorized mission on Mygeeto costs them nothing officially, but weighs on their consciences in ways that successful military operations never do. They saved their instructor's life and helped him reclaim his stolen inheritance, but they also learned that choosing between duty and loyalty creates scars that don't heal quickly. The incident strengthens bonds that were already unbreakable, while showing the commandos that their connections extend beyond their immediate squad. They're part of a larger family that includes trainers, advisors, and other soldiers who share their values and their willingness to sacrifice for each other. But it also plants seeds of doubt about orders that conflict with personal honor. Delta Squad followed Val's command to abandon him, and it nearly cost them someone they couldn't afford to lose. Next time, they might make different choices about whose orders matter most. Chapter 8. Hunting Ko Sai. Some secrets are worth more than entire star fleets. Delta Squad is about to hunt someone who holds the key to creating unlimited armies and might have already sold it to the enemy. Fresh off their unauthorized adventure on Mygeeto, Delta Squad returns to Coruscant expecting routine assignments and standard military operations. Instead, they get pulled into something that goes straight to the top of Republic leadership and involves secrets that could change the entire war. The briefing comes from General Arlagan Zay, the man who runs Republic Special Operations from behind closed doors. When Zay personally hands you a mission, it means the stakes are higher than usual, and failure isn't an option anyone wants to consider. The target is Ko Sai, a Kaminoan scientist who knows more about clone production than anyone else in the galaxy. She was the lead geneticist behind the Grand Army project, the person who figured out how to turn Jango Fett's DNA into millions of identical soldiers. Without her work, the Republic wouldn't have an army. But Ko Sai has gone missing. She disappeared during the Battle of Kamino when Separatist forces attacked the cloning facilities. Intelligence suggests she might have defected to the enemy, taking all her knowledge about clone genetics with her. If true, it means the Separatists could start producing their own clone armies. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine has made finding Ko Sai a top priority, ranking it almost as important as killing General Grievous. That level of attention from the Chancellor means this mission carries weight that goes far beyond normal military objectives. Political careers and strategic advantages hang in the balance. The reasoning behind Palpatine's urgency becomes clear when you think about what Ko Sai represents. Right now, only the Kaminoans can create new clones for the Republic. They control the technology, the facilities, and the expertise needed to maintain the Grand Army's numbers as the war drags on. If Ko Sai defected to the Separatists, she could help them build their own cloning program. Worse, if she's captured by enemy forces, they could torture the information out of her and gain access to Republic military secrets that go beyond just making soldiers. She knows how clone programming works, including the control chips that ensure loyalty. But Palpatine's interest goes deeper than just preventing enemy advantages. He wants Ko Sai's knowledge for the Republic, which really means he wants it for himself. Securing her expertise would break the Kaminoan monopoly on clone production and give Republic leadership direct control over army creation. Intelligence traces Ko Sai's trail to Vinai, a planet in the mid-rim that's far from major trade routes and Republic monitoring stations. It's the kind of place someone goes when they want to disappear completely, either to hide from enemies or negotiate with new allies. Delta Squad gets selected for the hunt because they're among the most skilled covert units in the Republic arsenal. Finding one person on an entire planet requires patience, technical expertise, and the ability to operate independently for extended periods. Few units can handle assignments like this. General Zay adds an unusual restriction to the mission briefing. Delta Squad is specifically ordered not to tell Kal Skirata about their hunt for Ko Sai. The reasoning isn't explained, but the order comes with enough emphasis to make it clear that disobedience would have serious consequences. What Delta Squad doesn't know is that Skirata has his own reasons for wanting to find Ko Sai. The Mandalorian trainer is desperately seeking a cure for the accelerated aging that's slowly killing all the clones he trained and came to love like sons. Ko Sai's genetic expertise might hold the key to extending their lifespans. Skirata is already conducting his own search for the missing scientist, using Omega Squad and other resources to track her movements. The parallel operations create a situation where Republic forces are competing against each other without realizing it, wasting effort and creating security risks. Delta Squad begins their covert search on Vinai, using their infiltration skills to blend into the local population while gathering intelligence on Ko Sai's possible whereabouts. The work requires patience and subtlety rather than the direct action they're more famous for. Hunting someone who doesn't want to be found on an unfamiliar planet tests different skills than storming enemy positions or rescuing trapped allies. Delta Squad has to become investigators, following paper trails and questioning contacts without revealing their true purpose or drawing unwanted attention. The search stretches on longer than anyone expected. Ko Sai proves to be extremely careful about covering her tracks and avoiding detection. Either she's very good at hiding, or someone is helping her stay ahead of Republic efforts to locate her. Meanwhile, unknown to Delta Squad, Skirata's parallel search is making faster progress. Omega Squad's investigation leads them closer to Ko Sai's actual location, while Delta follows older trails that lead nowhere useful. The competition between friendly forces works against everyone involved. The hunt eventually reaches its conclusion, but not in the way anyone planned. Ko Sai is found by Omega Squad first, but the encounter doesn't result in her capture. Instead, the Kaminoan scientist meets her end before either Republic faction can secure her knowledge for their own purposes. The failure to capture Ko Sai alive means that both Palpatine's political goals and Skirata's medical hopes end up disappointed. The scientist's death takes her genetic secrets with her, leaving the Republic dependent on Kaminoan cooperation for continued clone production. Delta Squad's role in the failed hunt demonstrates several things about their position within Republic Special Operations. They're trusted with missions that come directly from the Chancellor, showing how much confidence leadership has in their abilities and discretion. But they're also kept in the dark about larger political games being played by their superiors. The order not to tell Skirata about their mission shows that Republic Command doesn't fully trust even their most loyal supporters when conflicting interests are involved. The Ko Sai hunt also reveals how the war is creating competing priorities within Republic forces. Military commanders, political leaders, and individual soldiers all have different goals that sometimes work against each other. Unity of command becomes harder to maintain when everyone has secrets. For Delta Squad, the mission ends without the satisfaction of success or the clear sense of purpose that usually comes from their assignments. They followed orders, conducted a professional search, and failed through no fault of their own. Sometimes that's how covert operations work out. The experience adds to their growing understanding that the war involves more than just fighting separatists. Republic leadership has its own internal conflicts and hidden agendas that ordinary soldiers rarely get to see. Delta Squad is starting to operate in that shadow world where loyalty gets tested in unexpected ways. Chapter 9. Later War Operations. War changes everyone who fights in it, but some changes hurt more than others. Delta Squad is about to see how much the Clone Wars have cost their brothers and what happens when good soldiers reach their breaking point. By the second anniversary of the Clone Wars, about 736 days after that first battle on Geonosis, Delta Squad finds itself back on Coruscant for what should be a brief rest period. Instead of relaxation, they stumble into something that hits harder than any enemy ambush they've ever faced. Walking across the parade grounds at Arca Barracks, Scorch and Sev spot their old instructors Kal Skirata and Wallon Vao standing together in the middle of the empty space. The two Mandalorians are reading names from a long list, their voices carrying across the quiet courtyard with the weight of soldiers who've seen too much death. They're reciting the names of every clone commando who's died in the war so far. It's a Mandalorian tradition, a way of honoring the fallen by making sure they're remembered as individuals rather than just numbers in casualty reports. But hearing it performed brings home the cost of 2 years of fighting in ways that battle reports never could. The list goes on and on. Names of commandos who trained alongside Delta Squad on Camino, brothers who shared barracks and mess halls and dreams of surviving the war together. Each name represents someone who'll never come home, never see the end of the conflict, never get the chance to figure out what comes after being a soldier. Scorch and Sev find themselves drawn into the ceremony. They can't just walk past while their instructors honor dead brothers. Soon they're adding their own voices to the recitation, helping read names of commandos they knew personally and others they only heard about through military reports. Other clone soldiers start gathering as word spreads about what's happening on the parade grounds. More voices join the reading until dozens of commandos are participating in an impromptu memorial that nobody planned, but everyone needed. The ceremony becomes something beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. When the last name gets read and silence falls over the assembled clones, Skirata addresses the crowd with words that stick in everyone's memory. He tells them to stay safe and look out for each other in whatever comes next. The war isn't over, and more names will probably get added to the list before it ends. The memorial shows how much Delta Squad has become part of something larger than their own 4-man unit. They belong to a community of elite soldiers who share bonds forged in the worst kind of training and the deadliest missions. Losing any member of that community diminishes everyone who remains. A few months later, around day 970 of the war, Delta Squad gets deployed to Hargab, a dusty planet in the mid-rim where local insurgents have been causing problems for Republic forces. It's not the kind of assignment that usually requires elite commandos, which makes their deployment feel like busy work that nobody wants to be doing. The situation started with Omega Squad conducting a targeted elimination of a separatist leader, but the mission went sideways and escalated into a bigger conflict. Now, regular Republic forces are getting dragged into urban warfare that could have been avoided with better planning and more resources. Jedi General Etain Turmukan takes command of the expanded operation after another Jedi leaves the assignment. She's got history with both Delta and Omega squads, having worked with them during the Coruscant operation against the bombing cell. Her presence makes the mission more tolerable for everyone involved. The Republic base on Hargab isn't much to look at. Temporary structures and defensive positions scattered around a landing zone that's too small for the forces crammed into it. The whole setup feels like someone threw together a plan without thinking about long-term consequences. Delta Squad and Omega Squad find themselves eating together in the mess hall, sharing complaints about the assignment and catching up on what's happened since they last worked together. The conversation feels normal and routine, the kind of thing that happens when soldiers have time to relax between missions. Then the missile hits. The explosion tears through the mess hall like a giant fist, collapsing walls and burying dozens of troopers under debris and twisted metal. The insurgents timed their attack perfectly, hitting during the meal period when the maximum number of soldiers would be gathered in one vulnerable location. Delta Squad survives because their heavy Khatan armor protects them from the worst of the blast effects. They crawl out of the wreckage bruised and shaken, but still able to fight. Omega Squad fares similarly, proving that elite equipment makes a difference when everything goes wrong at once. But survival comes with a cost that goes beyond physical injuries. Delta Squad watches regular clone troopers die around them, men who didn't have the protection or training to survive what just happened. The sight of dead brothers hits harder than enemy blaster fire ever could. Scorch takes it worst of all. The explosives expert, who's made a career of controlled destruction, has to watch uncontrolled destruction tear apart people he's supposed to protect. The randomness of who lived and who died eats at him in ways that normal combat stress never has. The counterattack happens fast, with both commando squads mounting speeders and assault vehicles to track down whoever launched the missile. Intelligence quickly identifies the launch site in the city of Hade, giving them a target for their anger and grief. Scorch insists on being part of the entry team that breaches the insurgent safe house. His brothers can see he's not thinking clearly, driven by emotions that could get everyone killed if they're not careful. But stopping him would require force that nobody wants to use against their own explosives expert. The assault goes according to plan until the shooting stops. Darman blows open the door. Scorch tosses in a grenade, and the combined teams storm inside to eliminate 7 insurgents in a quick, professional operation. 4 get taken alive. 3 die in the firefight. Mission accomplished by any reasonable standard. But reasonable standards don't apply when good soldiers watch their brothers die for no good reason. Scorch drags the dead insurgents' bodies into the street and starts shooting them over and over, unloading his grief and fury on corpses that can't feel pain anymore but can absorb his need to keep hurting something. The display shocks everyone watching, including hardened commandos who've seen plenty of violence during the war. This isn't tactical shooting or professional elimination of threats. This is raw emotion expressed through blaster fire, and it's painful to witness. General Turmukan steps in before Scorch completely loses control. She offers to use the Force to ease his emotional pain, showing the kind of compassion that separates good Jedi from those who just carry lightsabers. Her intervention probably saves Scorch from doing something even worse. The incident reveals how much the prolonged war has worn down even the toughest soldiers. Clone commandos are supposed to be unbreakable, but everyone has limits. Watching friends die in a mess hall explosion apparently found Scorch's breaking point. Just weeks after the Hargab operation, around day 997 of the war, Delta Squad gets pulled into internal Republic politics in ways that make them uncomfortable. They witness a private meeting between Walon Vao and General Zay at their barracks, clearly involving sensitive matters that regular soldiers shouldn't know about. Zay has grown suspicious that Kalskirata might be planning something against Republic interests. The general's instincts are correct, though he doesn't know the details. Skirata is indeed plotting to desert with several clones, but his motives involve saving lives rather than betraying the cause. Vao assures Zay that he'll keep watch on Skirata and prevent any treasonous activities. He also promises to handle a situation involving someone in Republic custody, though the details remain unclear to Delta Squad. The politics are too complicated for soldiers who just want to complete missions and protect their brothers. When Delta Squad volunteers to help with whatever Vao is planning, he declines their assistance and tells them to focus on their next assignment. The message is clear even if the reasoning isn't. Some operations are too sensitive for even elite commandos to get involved with. The whole situation highlights how the war has created competing loyalties and hidden agendas within Republic forces. Soldiers who should be working together are instead watching each other for signs of betrayal or desertion. Trust becomes a luxury that fewer people can afford. Delta Squad gets orders for redeployment to a new hotspot that will mark their final major engagement of the Clone Wars. The destination is Kashyyyk, a forest world where Wookiees have been fighting separatist forces and their Trandoshan allies. It sounds like the kind of mission they're good at. None of them realize that Kashyyyk will test their brotherhood in ways that previous battles never have. The mission ahead will force choices between following orders and protecting each other, between military discipline and personal loyalty. Some decisions can't be undone, and some losses hurt forever. But that's still in the future. For now, Delta Squad prepares for another deployment, another mission, another chance to prove that four brothers can accomplish impossible things when they work together. The war has changed them all, but it hasn't broken the bonds that make them stronger than the sum of their parts. Chapter 10. Rescue of Tarfful. Sometimes the best missions are the ones where you save someone who can save themselves. Delta Squad is about to meet a Wookiee who proves that courage comes in all sizes, but especially the really big ones. In 19 BBY, as the Clone Wars drag toward their bloody conclusion, Delta Squad gets deployed to Kashyyyk, the forest homeworld of the Wookiees. This isn't a random assignment or busy work to keep elite commandos occupied. The Separatists have launched a major invasion of the planet, and they've brought some of the nastiest allies imaginable to help them. Trandoshan slavers have joined the Separatist assault, seeing an opportunity to capture Wookiees for the slave markets that operate throughout Hutt space. The reptilian raiders have been enemies of the Wookiees for generations, and now they're using the chaos of war to settle old scores and make new profits. The situation gets worse when the slavers manage to capture Chief Tarfful, one of the most important Wookiee leaders and a longtime fighter against slavery. Tarfful has spent years organizing resistance against Trandoshan raids, making him both a valuable prisoner and a dangerous enemy who needs to be eliminated. The Wookiees send desperate requests for Republic aid, knowing they can't rescue their chief without help. Delta Squad gets the call because this kind of mission requires surgical precision. 4 elite commandos can go places and do things that entire battalions couldn't accomplish. Clone Advisor 01/425 briefs Delta Squad on the mission parameters during their approach to Kashyyyk. This time, they'll have the element of surprise that was missing during their first battle on Geonosis. The enemy doesn't know they're coming, which gives them tactical advantages that could make all the difference. The timing makes the mission even more critical. Around 1,070 days after that first battle on Geonosis, just days before the Republic capital comes under attack, Delta Squad arrives at Kashyyyk with orders to extract Tarfful before the situation gets worse. Every day he remains in enemy hands increases the risk of losing him permanently. Kashyyyk's giant Rosha trees create a 3-dimensional battlefield unlike anything Delta Squad has encountered before. The forest canopy stretches hundreds of meters above the ground, with multiple levels of platforms, walkways, and settlements built into the massive trunks. Delta Squad deploys from their gunship high above the tree line, fast roping down through the branches into the green twilight of the forest floor. The descent requires careful navigation to avoid getting tangled in vines or crashing into unseen obstacles hidden in the shadows. The jungle environment tests different skills than urban warfare or ship-to-ship combat. Sound travels strangely through the dense foliage, making it hard to locate enemies by ear alone. Sight lines get blocked by vegetation that could hide entire squads of hostiles. Even the smell of the forest masks the sense that might warn of nearby threats. But Delta Squad adapts quickly, using their training and experience to move through the alien environment like they've been doing it all their lives. They locate the Trandoshan slave camp by following patrol routes and identifying the artificial structures that don't belong in the natural forest. The assault begins with stealth rather than explosive action. Delta Squad picks off sentries and patrols one by one, clearing their path toward the camp's center without alerting the main force. The work requires patience and precision, but it prevents the kind of firefight that could get prisoners killed. Moving through the treetop installations, Delta Squad discovers that the slavers have been busy. Several Wookiees are already imprisoned in crude cages, waiting to be shipped off-world to markets where their strength and intelligence make them valuable commodities. Each rescue expands the mission, but also provides local allies who know the terrain. During the infiltration, Boss spots something that changes their tactical situation completely. A distinctive starfighter launches from a nearby landing platform, and he immediately recognizes the profile. It's a Belbulab 22, the personal ship favored by General Grievous himself. The sighting gets reported immediately to Clone Advisor 01/425, who confirms what Boss suspected. General Grievous is personally overseeing operations on Kashyyyk, which explains why the Separatist invasion has been so effective. Having the Supreme Commander of droid armies present turns a local conflict into a strategic engagement. Delta Squad receives new orders to verify Grievous's presence if possible, while continuing their primary mission to rescue Tarfful. Intelligence on the cyborg general's location could be worth more than any single prisoner, even one as important as a Wookiee chief. Climbing a guard tower for better observation, Delta Squad gets their confirmation when they spot Grievous himself on a platform below. The four-armed cyborg is unmistakable even at a distance, his cape and distinctive silhouette marking him as one of the Republic's most wanted enemies. The observation nearly turns deadly when one of Grievous's Magna Guard droids detects the commandos and attacks their position. These elite droids are programmed specifically to hunt Jedi and other high-value targets, making them extremely dangerous opponents for anyone caught unprepared. Delta Squad barely escapes the Magna Guard's assault, using their superior mobility to evade the droid's electrostaff and built-in weapons. The encounter serves as a reminder that Grievous surrounds himself with the best protection money can buy, making any direct confrontation extremely risky. But the near miss also reveals something important about the camp's layout and security. The commandos now know where the most valuable prisoners are being held and how heavily they're guarded. Tarfful must be somewhere near Grievous's position, probably being prepared for transport off-world. Racing toward the camp's center before Grievous can depart with his prize, Delta Squad finds the Wookiee chieftain exactly where they expected. Tarfful is being escorted by two Magna Guards toward the waiting starfighter, clearly intended as a personal captive for interrogation or execution. Before Delta Squad can intervene, Tarfful decides to take matters into his own massive hands. Despite being bound and supposedly helpless, the Wookiee chieftain explodes into action with a kind of strength that made his species legendary throughout the galaxy. The display is both inspiring and terrifying. Tarfful tears through his restraints like they're made of paper, then proceeds to destroy both MagnaGuard droids with nothing but his bare hands and controlled fury. The mechanical bodyguards that nearly killed Delta Squad get ripped apart by a prisoner who refused to stay captured. Grievous reacts to losing his prize with the kind of rage that makes cyborg generals extremely dangerous to everyone around them. Instead of trying to recapture Tarfful, he orders the Wookiee's immediate execution and flees the planet aboard his starfighter. The decision shows both his tactical intelligence and his personal cowardice. 2 more MagnaGuards arrive to carry out Grievous's kill order, but now they face a different tactical situation. Tarfful is free, armed with weapons taken from his former guards, and backed up by 4 elite Republic commandos who've been looking forward to this fight. The battle that follows showcases what happens when professional soldiers team up with determined local allies. Delta Squad provides covering fire and tactical coordination, while Tarfful uses his natural strength and knowledge of the terrain to maximum advantage. Together, the 5 fighters destroy the remaining MagnaGuards in a coordinated assault that leaves no doubt about the outcome. The droids' superior technology and programming can't overcome the combination of military training and righteous anger that drives their opponents. With Tarfful secure and the immediate threat eliminated, Delta Squad signals for extraction. Their primary mission is complete, but the larger battle for Kashyyyk is just beginning. The Wookiee chieftain will be evacuated to Coruscant to brief Republic leadership and request the military support his people desperately need. The successful rescue demonstrates several things about Delta Squad's capabilities. They can adapt to unfamiliar environments, work effectively with local allies, and complete objectives even when the tactical situation changes dramatically during the mission. But the encounter with Grievous also shows the limits of what 4 commandos can accomplish against superior numbers and resources. They gathered valuable intelligence and saved an important ally, but they couldn't prevent the cyborg general from escaping to fight another day. Tarfful's rescue becomes a bright spot in what's shaping up to be one of the war's most brutal campaigns. Delta Squad has given the Republic a knowledgeable ally, and the Wookiees hope that help is coming. Now they have to prepare for the larger battle ahead, knowing that their hardest fighting on Kashyyyk is still to come. Chapter 11. Sev's Last Stand. Sometimes saving one person leads to saving everyone. But sometimes the cost gets higher than anyone wants to pay, and brothers have to make choices that will haunt them forever. After pulling off Tarfful's rescue, Delta Squad expects to head home and let someone else handle the cleanup on Kashyyyk. Instead, their clone advisor radios in with new orders that keep them on the forest planet longer than anyone planned. High Command wants them to stay and finish what they started. The intelligence they gathered during the rescue mission reveals something disturbing. That Trandoshan slaver camp wasn't just about capturing Wookiees for the slave markets. It was cover for something much bigger and more dangerous. The Separatists have been building a major staging base deep in the forests, getting ready to launch a full attack that could crush Wookiee resistance completely. Delta Squad gets orders to hit this hidden base before the enemy can use it. 4 commandos against an entire Separatist facility sounds like suicide, but that's exactly the kind of mission they trained for back on Kamino. Sometimes the impossible jobs are the only ones worth doing. The approach to the hidden base tests every skill they've learned about jungle warfare. The Separatists have planted minefields throughout the forest approaches, turning the natural terrain into a deadly maze that could kill careless attackers. But Delta Squad doesn't do careless. They locate the mines and carefully deactivate them without triggering the explosions that would alert every enemy within kilometers. The work requires patience and steady hands, but it clears a safe path through the defensive perimeter. Then Fixer gets a brilliant idea about how to use the enemy's own weapons against them. When a squad of droid deckers rolls in as reinforcements, Delta Squad reactivates the mines at exactly the right moment. The rolling droids trigger the explosions they were supposed to avoid, getting blown to pieces by their own side's defensive measures. Pushing deeper into the base, Delta Squad hits the Trandoshan landing platform, where fresh troops and supplies arrive from off-world. The platform represents a critical choke point in enemy logistics. Destroy it, and reinforcements can't reach the main base. Let it operate, and the Separatists can keep bringing in more forces until they're completely outnumbered. The assault on the landing pad happens under heavy fire from Trandoshan mercenaries who know exactly what Delta Squad is trying to accomplish. Reptilian soldiers pour blaster fire at the commandos while they plant explosives on the platform's support structures. It's a race between completing the sabotage and getting killed by defenders. Scorch's expertise with demolitions saves the day. His charges blow the landing platform into twisted wreckage that falls burning into the forest below. The explosion cuts off the flow of enemy reinforcements and creates a spectacular fireworks display that probably scares wildlife for kilometers around. Fighting their way into the main base, Delta Squad faces waves of Trandoshan mercenaries who've been hired to do the Separatists' dirty work. The reptilian soldiers fight with desperate fury, knowing they have nowhere to retreat and no backup coming thanks to the destroyed landing pad. Inside one of the base's hangars, Delta Squad encounters another advanced spider droid, like the one they fought on Geonosis. Instead of trying to outfight the spider droid with small arms, they use the hangar's own equipment against it. A cargo crane holds containerized explosives that were probably meant for some separatist operation. Delta Squad drops the entire payload directly onto the spider droid, turning it into scrap metal and spare parts. The destruction of the forward base ends with a Republic gunship arriving to mop up the remaining droid forces. Delta Squad pulls back as the entire facility goes up in flames, marking another successful mission in their growing list of impossible achievements. But success on Kashyyyk brings new responsibilities. Jedi General Etain Tur-Mukan arrives to provide command oversight for the next phase of operations. Having a Jedi General means the mission is expanding beyond simple commando raids into something that could affect the entire war. General Tur-Mukan briefs Delta Squad on their next target. The Kachiro Bridge spans one of Kashyyyk's major rivers, serving as a crucial link in Separatist supply lines. The massive bridge is built from a single fallen Rosha tree trunk, making it both an engineering marvel and a strategic bottleneck. Destroying the bridge would cripple the Separatists' ability to move heavy equipment and large formations across Kashyyyk's difficult terrain. The Wookiees could replace it later with smaller bridges that serve their needs without helping enemy logistics. It's exactly the kind of high-value target that justifies risking elite commandos. The assault on Kachiro involves more than just Delta Squad this time. Wookiee warriors join the attack, turning it into a combined operation that showcases what happens when Republic forces work effectively with local allies. The sight of armed Wookiees tearing apart Trandoshan invaders in close combat is both inspiring and terrifying. Fighting through the occupied market district around the bridge, Delta Squad gets to see Wookiee combat effectiveness up close. The massive aliens don't need fancy weapons or complex tactics. They just grab enemies and rip them apart with their bare hands, using natural strength that no amount of training can duplicate. Reaching the bridge itself, Delta Squad faces the challenge of planting demolition charges on a structure that's actively defended by battle droids and Trandoshan grenadiers. The work has to be precise to bring down such a massive construction, but it also has to be fast to avoid getting shot by enemies who know exactly what they're trying to accomplish. Boss places the charges at what should be the bridge's weakest structural points, then triggers the detonation sequence from a safe distance. The explosives go off exactly as planned, creating spectacular fireballs and clouds of smoke that should mark the bridge's destruction. But when the smoke clears, the bridge is still standing. The charges weren't powerful enough to bring down something built from Rosha wood that's been growing for centuries. All that careful planning and dangerous placement work accomplished nothing except warning the enemy that someone's trying to blow up their supply route. Scorch saves the mission with quick thinking and a Wookiee ally's generosity. One of the local warriors hands him a rocket launcher, probably salvaged from destroyed Separatist equipment. Instead of trying to reset the demolition charges, Scorch fires directly at the bridge supports with a weapon designed to punch through heavy armor. The rocket blast succeeds where the planted explosives failed. The massive bridge collapses into the river below, taking several enemy vehicles with it and creating a debris dam that will complicate river traffic for months. The destruction severs the main route for Separatist armor and hands the Republic a major tactical victory. But individual victories don't end wars, and the battle for Kashyyyk continues for nearly 2 more weeks. Delta Squad remains on the Forest World as reinforcements arrive, including Jedi General Quinlan Vos and even Grandmaster Yoda himself. The conflict has grown from a local Wookiee resistance into a major Republic military operation. During this extended campaign, Delta Squad proves their adaptability by taking on whatever missions need doing. They ambush Separatist patrols in the shadows of giant trees, commandeer Wookiee rocket turrets to shoot at enemy spacecraft, and generally make themselves useful in any way that helps win the larger battle. The moment that changes everything happens during an attack on a Separatist destroyer that's trying to blockade Yoda's landing zone. Delta Squad and their Wookiee allies pour fire into the massive ship from ground-based positions, adding their weapons to the combined assault that's slowly tearing the enemy vessel apart. As the destroyer breaks apart under the sustained bombardment, Sev's voice crackles over the comm system with words that chill his brothers to the bone. He's under heavy attack somewhere in the forest and needs immediate backup. The sniper who never asks for help is calling for rescue, which means the situation is worse than bad. Boss immediately orders the squad to regroup and go after their missing brother. The promise they made during training echoes in all their minds. Never leave a man behind. No matter what the cost, no matter what the orders, you bring your brothers home or die trying. But before they can move to help Sev, a forward air controller breaks into their communications with new orders that feel like a knife to the heart. General Yoda himself has commanded immediate evacuation of all Republic forces. No one stays behind. No exceptions. No rescue attempts for anyone outside the evacuation zone. Boss protests angrily, his voice carrying all the pain of a leader being ordered to abandon someone he's sworn to protect. Scorch joins the argument, invoking the promise they made to each other and reminding everyone listening that commandos don't leave brothers behind. But the forward air controller insists the orders come directly from Yoda and are final. The Grand Master is now commanding the defense of Kashyyyk, and his word carries more weight than the promises 4 commandos made to each other during training. Military discipline demands obedience, even when obedience means betrayal. The choice tears Delta Squad apart in ways that enemy fire never could. Every instinct tells them to disobey orders and rescue Sev. Every principle they've lived by demands they risk everything to bring him home. But the chain of command is clear, and Grand Master Yoda's orders leave no room for interpretation. Chapter 12. After Order 66. Order 66 changes everything in a single moment that echoes across the entire galaxy. The Republic becomes the Galactic Empire overnight. Jedi who were generals and allies become enemies to be hunted down and killed. Clone troopers who served alongside Force users for years suddenly turn their weapons on the people they once protected. Delta Squad's surviving members find themselves caught in the middle of this massive shift without anyone asking their opinion. Boss, Fixer, and Scorch have to figure out how to serve a new government that operates by completely different rules. The empire they're supposed to serve looks nothing like the Republic they fought to defend. About 1,100 days since their first battle on Geonosis, just over 3 years of fighting that changed them all, the 3 remaining members of Delta Squad get stationed on Centax II. This moon-orbiting Coruscant serves as a secret Imperial Army training center where the new government figures out what to do with all the clone soldiers it inherited. The transition period gives them time to mourn Sev properly, something they never got to do while the fighting was still going on. Their brother remains missing in action on Kashyyyk, never recovered despite whatever searches might have happened after they were forced to evacuate. The loss sits heavy on all of them, but especially on his surviving brothers, who had to leave him behind. In an unexpected twist, Delta Squad gets joined by 2 familiar faces from their past. Darman and Nina from Omega Squad end up attached to Imperial service alongside them, though the circumstances aren't exactly happy ones for anybody involved. Omega Squad split apart during Order 66, just like everything else from the Old Republic. Aten and Kor deserted with Kal Skirata, probably following their former instructor's plan to save clones from whatever the Empire had planned for them. But Darman refused to abandon Nina, who was gravely injured and couldn't travel safely with deserters on the run. So now Delta Squad finds itself expanded informally to include 2 survivors from another unit, both carrying their own grief and confusion about serving a government that isn't the one they originally signed up to fight for. Nobody asked these clones what they wanted when the Republic died and the Empire was born. About 3 weeks into the Empire's reign, Delta Squad and the remnants of Omega get summoned to Imperial military headquarters on Coruscant for what turns out to be a life-changing assembly. They find themselves standing alongside scores of other veteran Republic commandos and ARC troopers in a massive formation that represents everything left of the Republic's elite forces. Then Darth Vader walks into the room. The sight of the black armored figure sends chills through every clone present, though none of them understand exactly why. This is supposed to be the Emperor's right-hand man, the person who'll be giving them their new orders and mission parameters. But something about Vader feels wrong in ways that trained soldiers can't quite put into words. Vader announces the formation of the Imperial Commando Special Unit, an elite branch that will operate within the Empire's 501st Legion. All surviving clone commandos get inducted into this new organization, whether they want to be or not. Their skills are too valuable to waste, and the Empire has specific uses for soldiers trained to handle impossible missions. The mission profile for Imperial commandos shifts dramatically from what they did during the Clone Wars. Instead of fighting separatist droids and defending Republic territory, they'll be hunting down Jedi who survived Order 66. They'll track renegade clones who deserted rather than serve the Empire. They'll eliminate anti-imperial insurgents and dissidents who threaten the new government's stability. It's a complete change from everything they trained for and believed in during the war. Instead of protecting the innocent and defending democracy, they're being asked to hunt people who were once allies and eliminate anyone who opposes the Empire's rule. The moral complexity makes some clones uncomfortable, but military discipline keeps them in line. The administrative changes come with the new mission parameters. Republic Commando designations get changed to Imperial Commando prefixes, marking their transition from RC to IC status. Delta Squad probably receives a new numerical identifier to fit the Empire's organizational system, just like Omega Squad becomes Squad 40 under the new arrangement. Initially, the Imperial Commando Special Unit operates under Saquis, one of the Emperor's hands, and a dark side agent with abilities that make regular soldiers nervous. Quees doesn't last long in the position, meeting an untimely death that nobody talks about in detail, but everybody seems to understand was violent and final. Command of the unit passes to Imperial Commander Roli Melusar, an officer from Droman Khas who brings a fanatical hatred of Force users to his new position. Melusar's zealous anti-Jedi attitudes earn him a nickname among the clone commandos that perfectly captures their opinion of his personality. Scorch coins the term Holy Roly to describe their new commander's religious-level devotion to hunting and killing anyone connected to the Force. The nickname spreads quickly through the unit, giving the clones a way to express their feelings about Melusar's extremism without directly challenging his authority. Under Melusar and Vader, Delta Squad and their fellow Imperial commandos begin the grim work of enforcing Palpatine's new order across the galaxy. The missions are darker and more morally ambiguous than anything they faced during the Clone Wars, when enemies were clearly defined and objectives were straightforward. Now they hunt people who might have been friends or allies just weeks before. They track down clones who made different choices about serving the Empire. Men who share their faces and training, but chose desertion over loyalty to a government they didn't recognize. They eliminate civilians whose only crime is opposing a system that replaced democracy with authoritarian rule. The work weighs on soldiers who were trained to be heroes and protectors. Delta Squad finds itself carrying out missions that feel more like assassination and suppression than the noble warfare they remember from fighting separatists. The Empire they serve operates by rules that make victory feel hollow and duty feel like betrayal. But they adapt because that's what clone commandos do. They follow orders, complete missions, and trust that their superiors understand the bigger picture even when individual operations seem wrong. Military discipline holds them together when moral certainty starts to crumble. The transition from Republic to Empire marks the end of one story and the beginning of another for Delta Squad. They're no longer the heroes charging into impossible battles to save innocent lives. Now they're the Emperor's enforcers, hunting former allies and silencing dissent across a galaxy that's learning to fear the very soldiers who once protected it. The Empire promises order and stability, but delivers it through methods that make clone commandos question what they're really fighting for. The galaxy has changed, and Delta Squad has changed with it. Whether that change leads to redemption or damnation remains to be seen as they begin their new careers, hunting the enemies of an empire that was built on the grave of everything they once believed in. Chapter 13. Fate. Some stories end with answers. Others end with questions that never get resolved. Delta Squad's story does both, depending on which version of the galaxy you're living in. In the old Legends timeline, Delta Squad's fate after joining the Imperial Commando Special Unit stays mostly a mystery. The books that followed their adventures just stopped getting written, leaving Boss, Fixer, and Scorch somewhere in the Imperial war machine without anyone telling us what happened next. They probably kept doing what they always did, taking impossible missions, completing objectives that regular troops couldn't handle, and watching each other's backs in a galaxy that had gotten a lot more complicated. But we don't know for sure because the stories stopped coming. What we do know is that Sev never came home. In Legends, he stays missing on Kashyyyk forever, leaving his brothers to carry that weight for the rest of their lives. The accelerated aging that affects all clones means Boss, Fixer, and Scorch probably got phased out of active service within a couple decades. But they carried Sev's absence with them the whole time. The current canon tells us more about one member's fate, and it's not a happy ending. Scorch shows up in the Bad Batch as an Imperial instructor training the first generation of regular stormtroopers on a planet called Daro. He's still following orders, still doing his job, but now he's working for people who see clones as replaceable equipment. Later, Scorch gets assigned to guard Mount Tantis, a secret Imperial facility where they're doing things that probably would have horrified the Republic he once served. When Clone Force 99 raids the base to rescue a young girl named Omega, Scorch ends up on the wrong side of the fight. The battle goes badly for him. Rogue clones stun him repeatedly, and he falls from a landing platform, taking multiple hits to the chest on the way down. It's not the kind of death that elite commandos plan for, but it's the one he gets. Scorch dies serving an empire that never really cared about him or his brothers. The fates of Boss, Fixer, and Sev in canon remain unknown. They might have followed similar paths as Imperial instructors or guards. They might have deserted like some other clones did. They might have died in battles that nobody bothered to record. We just don't know yet. What we do know is that Delta Squad's story changed how people think about clone troopers. Before their game came out in 2005, clones were mostly background characters in white armor. Delta Squad showed that identical genetics don't create identical people.